Ian works for a cool company where they get to have beer at their office. I work for a brewery, so we get to have beer at our office, but it's more of like a technical thing. It's not like a, Hey everybody, welcome to Pros with Peter. I'm Peter. Today we're gonna brew a pale ale that is gonna be great for sharing with people. It's gonna be a crowd pleaser. It's gonna be yummy, delicious, and lower ABV than an IPA, or something you could have one or two of after work and not be wasted, something you can enjoy and share with friends. And the reason for that is my good friend Ian, come over here Ian, wants to brew something and have it on tap at work. So we're gonna brew a classic pale ale. All right, get out of here Ian. Let's get to it. Per usual, reverse osmosis filtered water. I'm gonna start with 7.5 gallons. So I'm gonna dump this whole first one in. We're gonna add our water additions, which for this brew are very simple: 8 grams of gypsum for bitterness and 4 grams of calcium chloride for a nice body and mouthfeel. So we're at 160 degrees. Maybe it's like 160.5, but about our strike temperature. We are going to add our bag, and then we're gonna add our grains, and then we're gonna let it sit for 45 minutes to convert starches into sugars. Let's get that bag in. I never know which side is the outside. They're slightly different, but like not that different. All right, and now guest star for the day, Ian, is gonna come help me mash in. Ready? So just a consistent pour-ish down to the middle, and I'll stir a little bit. Mashing in, mashing in. Sorry, I won't hum. All right, we're all mixed in. We're at about 154, so a little higher than I expected, but it's gonna be totally fine. This is a low stress beer. The recipe is 9 pounds of 2-row, which is kind of the classic, approachable, normal base malt that gets you beer like beer. We've got a 1/2 pound of Carapils malt that will get you good body and head retention and a little bit of color. And we've got 1 pound of Munich that gives us bready notes, a little bit of color, a little bit of body, really rounds out the beer. You could do Munich or Vienna in this and you'll get different beers but similar aspects. Both would turn out really well and make a great pale ale, but we're trying to keep this real simple, so it's 10.5 pounds. Every homebrew store should have this malt. And now we're gonna let this sit for 45 minutes. All right, 45 minutes is up. We're gonna see if we get sugar conversion. I'm gonna take a gravity just to make sure that we've got the sugars we want to boil down. I'm also gonna take a temperature, see where we ended up, but I'm being real low key with this one. No stress beer. Hi, I'm Paul. So I'm just gonna grab a little sample from the wort, drip it over, and we'll see what gravity it's at. At like 1036 specific gravity, or 9 bricks. That's great. We're gonna boil it down, and then it'll be a nice low ABV pale ale. We're checking what temperature we're at, which it's been a little bit of time. Boop, 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 boop. I mean, it's 143.2, but I've also been stirring and had the lid open for like 6 minutes since we finished. So I think it finished more like 148. We're good to go. We're gonna take the grain out, lauter, which just means separate the grain from the sweet wort. My glurps. Gloves, 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 gloves. Heat-proof, waterproof. Well, heat-proof, I mean, they still get hot. I don't think heat-proof is a thing. Heat-resistant, maybe? Twist and squeeze. Oh, yeah. All right, we're gonna bring this bad boy up to a boil. We've got the grains out. They're in the compost bin. Bag is hanging out, cleaning, drying off. We are going to boil this for standard 60 minutes. Our hot break has dissipated. All that foam that bubbled up right when we were reaching a boil is gone, and we've just got a nice rolling boil. I'm gonna add our bittering hops. So these are Magnum hops. They bring a nice clean bitterness without much other flavors or aromas. So I'm gonna add 3/4 of an ounce, and we're gonna let them boil for 60 minutes. At 45 minutes, we're gonna add our Whirlfloc and our yeast nutrient, and then at flame out, AKA 60 minutes, end of the boil, we are going to add our Citra and our Mosaic. That's it. In the meantime, we're gonna let this rip. All right, we've got 15 minutes left in our boil. We're gonna put in the immersion chiller so that it's sanitized for when we start cooling. 10 minutes left in the boil. I'm going to add Whirlfloc for clarity. It's gonna coagulate proteins, and they're gonna hopefully settle down the bottom of the beer at the end. And right after that, we're gonna do 2.5 teaspoons of yeast nutrient. This is gonna help the yeast make sure that they stay happy and healthy and ferment the beer out all the way. Our 60-minute timer just went off. I'm going to cut the heat, start the chiller, and then throw in our flame out hops, which are hops that go in right as we cut the boil. And make sure this isn't leaking too much. All right, our flame out hops. We've got 1 ounce Citra, 1 ounce Mosaic. These are gonna add a bunch of really great fruity flavors. Since we're doing them late, we're not gonna extract too much bitterness from them. They're known to go really well together. They're used in a ton of beers, and I know that they will be crowd pleasers. Hops are in. Now I'm gonna start stirring, and we're gonna make sure that the spoon stays sanitary. Perfect, so we've cooled down to about 67 degrees. So I'm gonna take out the immersion chiller. I just turned off the water and I'm going to stir it up, whirlpool. Hopefully a lot of the trub, a lot of the gunk, the proteins and the hops will settle towards the middle, and what will suck out is clear beer, and then we don't have to deal with as much trub in the fermenter. So I'm gonna grab this, move it, put the pot on the table, stir it up, cover it, let it sit for 5 minutes, and then we'll transfer to the fermenter. Now we've got our sanitized fermenter. Let me just empty out this and we will fill up the fermenter. Make sure our transfer line is sanitized. Good to go into the fermenter. There we go, we're flowing. All right, we're using East Coast ale yeast. This is the Conan strain. It's dry, it's from Lallemand. I got this a little while ago, but I've been keeping it cold. I got it out to bring it up to room temperature. We're just gonna sprinkle it right in and it's gonna go to work. A lot of dry ale yeast will work fine here, so don't sweat it too much. A USO 5, I would definitely recommend. If you wanna try this one, try it out. I haven't actually used this before, so we'll see how it goes. I think this beer is gonna turn out to be a crowd pleaser. Now we're gonna pop it into the chest freezer, let it go for about 2 weeks, check in on it. We'll dry hop it after that and get it into a keg. Send it off to work. That wraps up our brew day. Thank you to Ian for the inspiration. Thank you to Connor for the Popeyes. We're gonna go enjoy ourselves for a little bit. That beer's gonna ferment, and we'll see you guys when we keg. Here we are, 16 days after brewing this beer and 7 days after dry hopping. I cold crashed it, which means turning the fermentation chamber down from 68 degrees to 37 degrees last night. So that helped all the trub settle at the bottom. All that gunk and the proteins and the hot matter becomes the trub down at the bottom. And then we kegged it. I used my typical kegging method, which was a semi-closed transfer. And then we force carbonated it. And if you want to see all the details about how I force carbonate my beer, click the link above. That'll take you to my video where I talk about kegging and force carbonating. Now we're ready to pour this. It finished with a final gravity of 1012. That brings it to a pretty sessionable 5.3% pale ale. I think it looks lovely. It's still carbonating, so the foam's a little odd, but Ian's got to take it to work, so we're gonna try it now and then send it on its way with Ian. It smells really nice. Tons of sweet fruit notes. I'm getting like stone fruity, maybe peachy, and citrus. It's Citra and Mosaic, so those are super popular hops because they smell and taste like that, and that's why they're popular, because they're very good. It's a little hazy. I could see it dropping a little clear sitting on tap, but it's a crowd-pleasing pale ale, so people are liking hazy beers now, so that's not a bad thing. All right, let's give it a try. The bitterness is really nice. It's there. It's definitely a pale ale, but it's not IPA levels. It's super drinkable. I think most people would be pretty happy with how balanced this beer is. Ooh, I could drink that for a while. That's really good, actually. I mean, I try to make all my beers good. This tastes like what you would imagine a pale ale to taste like. If you thought, what's a good pale ale? This is what that tastes like. If you're looking for a really great beer to share with your friends, maybe it's one of your earlier brews, or you just want something that's gonna go right down the middle and be a people pleaser, this is a great option. I'll link the recipe below. I mean, I've brewed variations of this for a long time. You could mix up hops, you could mix up some adjuncts, you could play with it a little bit, you could use a different yeast. If you guys have brewed something like this or have a favorite hop combination, let me know in the comments down below. I love learning what people like to pair together. If you guys want to see me brew more beers, do more brew days, click the link at the end of the video. And for now, prost.